Lesson 3.3, % of a number. Now notice that big word in the middle, of. Remember what of means. Our target today is I can find the percent of a number. We're going to go straight into examples today. No vocab. Solve the percent problem. 25% of 40 is. Now, we know what of means. We have done this. Remember, 1/2 of 3 is 1/2 times 3. So 25% of 40 is 25% times 40. Now, important thing, you cannot at all multiply a number by a percent straight away. Okay, we have to do something to the percent. We cannot simply go 40 times 25. That is not 25% of 40, that is 25 times 40, and those are two completely different things. So there's two ways to do this. We can use a fraction or a decimal. Let's start with a fraction. First, we're going to write the percent as a fraction. In simplest form is usually best, but not required. Then multiply it by the given number. We know how to multiply fractions, something we've done, straight across. We will need to make the whole number, in this case 40, a fraction by putting it over 1. So let's look what this looks like. First, 25%, we're going to stick 100 under it. Simplify that. 25 over 100, divide them both by 25, we get 1/4. Now we're going to multiply 1/4 times 40 over 1, and we're going to get 40 over 4. Division, fraction bar is division. We can simplify this down to 10. Remember to simplify your answer. 25% of 40 is 10. 1/4 of 40 is 10. Same thing. Let's use a decimal. All we have to do is change the percent to a decimal. We do that by dividing it by 100 or putting it into fraction form and then finding the decimal from there. A percent can be made by a decimal by moving the decimal 2 places to the left. In this case, 25% is the same as 25 hundredths, or 0.25. Times 40 is 10. Let's try this one. What is 60% of 30? Again, using a fraction, we'll write our percentage as a fraction. Simplest form is usually best, so 60 over 100, because to turn a percent into a fraction, we stick it over 100, simplifies down to 3/5. 3/5 times 30 over 1, because it's a whole number, we have to stick it over 1, gives us 90 over 5. That simplifies down to 18. 60% of 30 is 18. Using a decimal, all we have to do to change a percent into a decimal is move that decimal point over to the left twice. In this case, that gets us 0.60, or 0.6, which times 30 is 18. Again, 60% of 30 is 18. As long as your percentage is under 100%, your product is going to be smaller than your number, okay? A percent of a number, as long as that number is less than 100%, is going to be smaller. Look at example 2. Find the value of the expression, 40% of $1. Let's use a fraction. I'm going to write 40% as a fraction in simplest form. 40%, stick it over 100, simplifies down to 2/5. 2/5 times $1 over 1 equals 2 over 5, which simplifies down to 40 cents. Because we're dealing with dollars here, we want to put our answer back into a decimal. 2/5 is the same as 4/10, or 40 cents. It's important to keep your units the same. We were dealing with money in the first place, so let's make sure our answer is also in money form. All we have to do to change a percent into a decimal is move that decimal point over. 40% is the same as 0.4, which times $1 is 0.4. In this case, 40 cents, which we write as it is shown there. Let's look at the next one. 75% of $200. Using bigger numbers here, bigger percent, bigger number. We're trying to find the percentage of. Does not change anything. We're going to write 75% as a fraction in simplest form. 75%, stick it over 100, it equals 3/4. 3/4 times 200, which we've stuck over 1 because it's a whole number, gets us 600 over 4. 600 divided by 4 is 150. And we're dealing with dollars, so we're going to put the dollar sign in front of it. $150. Using the decimal method. Same thing. Let's turn that percentage into a decimal. I'm moving that decimal point to the left twice. It's a 0.75, which when multiplied by $200 is $150. Example 3, we're going to do this really quickly here, guys. The price of gasoline this week is 105% of the price last week. Now here's what I'm talking about when I say if the percentage is smaller than 100%. Smaller than 100%, my product, the answer to my multiplication problem, is going to be smaller. But if my percentage is higher than 100%, then my number is going to go up. So if the price of gas is 105% of what it was last week, and it was $4 per gallon last week, what is the price per gallon? So write the problem out. What are we multiplying here? 105% of $4. Let's choose a method, fraction or decimal. It looks like we're going to use decimals. So move the decimal place over, and that is 1.05 instead of 105 times 4. 1.05 times 4 is $4.20. It's $4.20. So our product is larger than the number we started with because we multiplied it by more than 100%. We're giving more than 100%. All right, there's going to be an assignment on Google Classroom for you. Also, next Monday is going to be a practice day as well. So we're going to spend 2 days on finding percent of a number to give you guys even more practice on this topic.